No, it just says record at the top when you just turned it on.
It does.
Yeah.
Okay, so then it should be recording you too.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right, you can start with the first question.
Okay, so what inspired you to start writing in general?
In general,
Yeah.
um, I read for probably 3 years on Wattpad, and I kept finding books that I liked, but I wished that there was more to them, or I found some books that I really, really liked. Um, I found books that I didn't care for, and I think it kind of triggered me to want to write my own story or write it in a way that I wanted it to be written, something that was different from other books.
That's what I've heard from a couple of others.
And
Um,
I kind of had this always had these, this way of stories would pop into my head or ideas, and I never I usually ignored them a lot and thought that it was nothing, and that was something that went on since my childhood. I watched a lot of movies, read a lot of books, and I think it kind of triggered different ideas in my head all the time. I decided
yeah,
to give it a try.
because I get that too. Because I'm like, I read books. I'm like, why can't you do it this way, like, or this way, or this just take forever to update,
Right.
or they
Yeah,
leave
that
it.
was kind of the other thing too. I was like, God, people, some of them take it to where only they update once a week. Sometimes people don't even finish a book. And I didn't want to be like that. And I actually wound up exactly like that over time because it life just kind of got busy and things changed a lot after Ace got popular. I started college, and that takes up the majority of my time right there, and then I have all my kids too, and that takes up a lot of time.
Right. Because I understand like taking forever to update, but then like I would find books I was really interested in and they haven't updated for years.
Yeah, I've seen that happen before too, and it was very disappointing. So actually, most of the time when I went to go find a book on Wattpad, I had to make sure that it was completed, or because if it wasn't, I wouldn't even touch it.
Yeah, I've found a few were like, it sounds interesting, but I know I'll get into it, so I'll just not read it.
Yeah, that's kind of what happened to me. I was like, oh, yeah, they haven't updated this in like 3 years. Obviously, they're not going to, and it was frustrating because I wanted to finish a story.
Mm-hmm.
And now I barely read on Wattpad, or if at all, because most of the time school has me reading a lot and having to study and read different articles and things like that. So most of my reading goes towards college now, and I don't even have the time usually to read or even finish a book.
Yeah, because I don't have a whole lot of reading, but I'm constantly on Wattpad, so I'm like, I'm hoping when I do go to college soon, I'm like, I don't lose that because I love reading.
Yeah. Yeah, it's reading is fun, and it kind of puts you in a different place for a time being, and if it's one of those types of books that you can see it in your head, then it's very easy to get lost in it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what's your next question?
What inspired the Ace series?
When I started Ace, it was maybe one of the first 5 books I wrote. I want to say it was anywhere between one and the third. It's hard to say for sure. I know for sure that Atlanta City's Bad Boy was the first one. when I started Ace, I had this idea that of this relationship that was, it was kind of inspired by that song, that Bad Things song that you keep seeing throughout the book.
Yeah.
So I was sitting there listening to that song and I was like, the song's very inappropriate. It's not the kind of thing. And then I kept getting it in my head of a guy who has tattoos, a lot of tattoos. And a sweet innocent girl she thinks at first,
Right.
but she gets in trouble at school, and it kind of just led from one thing to another. I just sat down. I started the idea with her getting expelled and having to move away. So I wrote that, and then I brought Ace into it. I brought Ace into it a little too quickly. But after that, it just kind of rolled out. I hurried up and I wrote it. It turned out to be almost 50 chapters, I think. And it was one of my longer ones out of my first few. Um, that book was very, I I didn't think it would get very popular because when I first started writing it, I didn't have a lot of readers. And the readers I did have, they were silent. So I
Oh,
was
yeah.
thinking, oh, okay, so this book's not really going anywhere, so I'm done writing it. And I stopped it where I decided somewhere probably in the middle or near the end of the book, I'm like, okay, so spoiler alert, but Carlos is gonna die. And Gabriel's gonna be the one who did it because I didn't want Lewis to do it. It's his
Right. Lewis
nephew. It
is
seemed a
too.
little too wild. I was like,
Yeah.
not Lewis. And then I was thinking, well, Jax is dead, and Benny's just too great to kick him off.
I cried each time I read that Jax died.
Yeah,
And
and
Benny couldn't do that. Benny's too much of a goofball.
yeah, and honestly, when I killed Jax, I didn't know who I killed at first. I had to think about that because the way the chapter ended, if you remember, even in the original story, it was, well, Jax is going to Jax is going to be the one who dies because they'd probably be mad if I killed Lewis. They'd be
Yeah.
really mad if I killed Benny because Benny's great.
Oh my god.
I didn't
They'd
want to
be
kill
so
Benny.
bad if you killed
I,
Benny.
I didn't want to kill Benny at all because I love Benny way too much. And then I was thinking not Gabriel because I don't know why, but I wanted to keep him for something else. And I thought that maybe he would just die later down the road.
Yeah.
And Austin, and well, it couldn't be Austin because that's Ace's brother. And Austin's kind of has his funny moments too. So I like his character, which is why
Every
I
time I
show
read,
him more in Finding Ace because I like
yeah.
Austin. And I think there was somebody else too, isn't there? Abel. I didn't want to kill Abel off either because I thought, well, geez, that would suck, because Kimmy. But
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I started sitting down writing it, but I did have the idea that the guy was gonna have tattoos. So I went on to Google and I searched, boy with tattoos, and of course, the one and only Stephen James come up, or Stephen James came up, and I
Oh
was
yeah.
like, oh yeah, it's him. So I picked him out. That was by accident, by the way, because I didn't even know he was popular on Wattpad. I had never seen him on a story before.
Oh.
And I had spent years on Wattpad and never saw him. And then I put him in Ace, and suddenly, like, I started noticing him everywhere. And I was like, oh, he's
Never noticed him
popular on
before.
Wattpad, isn't he? Whoops.
I've never noticed him before.
Yeah, that, and then when I noticed nobody was reading, I think at the time that I completed the story, it might have had 500 to 700 views. And then within that, a week later, I think I started hitting like 1,000 views, and then I started getting votes and comments, and then within a couple of weeks I was at 10,000 views and, you know, a few hundred votes, and it
Oh,
just
dang.
kept piling up, and my phone kept blowing up, and every morning that I got onto Wattpad I'd have 200 plus notifications.
Oh my god.
And I was like, oh, well, somebody likes it, don't they? Because I was not going to write a sequel. Actually, you may not have even read this at the time, but there was an epilogue to Ace.
Uh,
And the epilogue was of Arya and Ace much later down the road with their kids and their teenage son, Angel, and their other kids. Like, they were all in there. And it was almost like the epilogue from Queen of Bad Things. It was similar to that. And I tacked on, like, it was, the epilogue took place like 16, 17 years later. The
no, I
original
remember seeing
epilogue
that
of Ace
epilogue.
did. And so, like, when Carlos dies, and then they go into the epilogues like 16 years later, and they're talking about Angel taking over the chair, and Ace says, well, oh, maybe he doesn't want it that bad. And Angel stomps back into the kitchen. He's like, first of all, I want it. Okay, but I have a life outside of this. You
Right.
know, like throwing his little teenage attitude. And people started, like, they blew that book up. And I was like, okay. And people kept wanting a sequel. And I was like, okay. I was like, so do you guys want me to, like, go back, delete the epilogue, and start from when Arya takes the chair? And they're like, yeah, that's what I want. And I was like, okay, we'll do that. And then it became Arya the Chair, which I changed the name later.
Huh. No, because when I found it, there wasn't an epilogue and the rest of your books were published. And then I lost it for a few years and was like pretty mad because I kept trying to find it, but I couldn't. And then I magically found it and I was
That,
glad.
that that's surprising that you had such troubles finding at least Ace anyway, because I think Ace hits number one in every genre at different points in time. I think it's hit number one in every genre that I have it tagged in.
Oh,
At least once or more. Like right now I think it's number one in action thriller.
I don't know why I struggled, but I don't think I struggled
You
because
might have you might have forgot the title maybe.
maybe because I knew it was Ace because when I found it, I sent it to my sister and she also liked it. And she lost that account that she had it on. I lost the whole book series, but we knew it was Ace, so we kept trying to look for like other books with Ace in it, and I
Mhm.
guess we couldn't find it.
Yeah. Yeah, it can Wattpad can be actually hard to find books because there's really so many on there.
Yeah.
You gotta almost know the person's username or know the name of the book. I really
Hmm.
like Chasing Red, by the way. You ever read that? That book was
Yeah, I have.
that was one of my favorites, actually. She's With Me. That was one of my favorite Wattpad books. And was it the quarterback bad boy in me or something like that? I can't remember
Oh,
the name
yeah.
of that. That was one of my favorites too. I think those were my top three favorites. I've actually never finished the She's With Me series because the author um she quit writing, I think, the last book for a while. And so I just, by the time that she was no longer writing them, uh,
Yeah.
I was writing at that point and I was barely reading. So, you know, it kind of, and now I think she finished it now, but at the time she didn't have it finished, and I started writing, and then I never finished it, but it's definitely on my to-do list because I like the series.
Oh
There's
yeah.
another one too, I think. Cheater, faker, troublemaker, something like that.
I don't think I've read that one.
If you ever get the chance, read it. If I find it, I'll send it to you. I'm not sure if she has it locked now, if it's on paid stories. It could be, or it's like cheater, faker, troublemaker. I think that's the name of it. That was a really good book, actually. I really appraise that book.
Yeah. Because I found a few unpaid stories. I'm just like, man, I want to read it, but like,
Mm.
I don't want to pay for it.
Yeah, I've had that myself too. I was like, nah, it costs money though. But I would, if they have them on Amazon, some of them they do. Like I think that
Yeah.
quarterback book,
Mm-hmm.
that's on Amazon. She's with me, that's on Amazon. I plan to buy those at some point.
Yeah.
Some of my favorite books that I found on there. Chasing Red was probably my most
Chasing
favorite
Red
though.
was a really good one.
Yeah. Yeah, I really like
I
that one.
sent that to like everyone's like, read this. You'll thank me later.
Yeah. Yeah, that it was a good book. She did a really, really good job on that. I think there's a sequel to it too, and I haven't gotten to that. So I found that out like recently and I was like, ooh, I'm gonna read that.
Okay, let me go read that later.
Yeah. Okay, what's your next question?
Um, how did you come up with the characters? Like, did someone remind you of a character?
That's a good question. Benny. Betty is 110% my little brother, Mason.
Hmm.
Um, my younger brother, he's 5 years younger than I am. He's actually in college too, but he's becoming a video game designer. So not
Ooh.
quite 100% like Benny. The computer whiz part is not really quite the case with him, but he's very good at playing video games. There's not a game he's has not beaten to my knowledge. Um,
Wow. Like,
and
I play
so
games too, but not a whole lot like that.
he used to be pretty good with computers, but actually the computer whiz thing, that's kind of more me. He's like really good with any video games, but I'm
Wow.
actually really good with computers. I can usually fix them for the most part, or at least I was a little better at fixing desktops. Um, I think that so Benny's kind of like a mix between me and my brother, but definitely more my brother.
Yeah.
The funny thing, the funny stuff, like the kind of whole ha ha awkward funny moment, that's
Yeah.
100% my brother. It is almost identical to him. Like if I had to compare Benny to anyone, it's definitely my brother.
Yeah.
So I didn't quite get the same sense of humor that my brother has. And my brother, he doesn't do it on purpose most of the time either. It's like just some of those things that are just by accident. Like he just says the right thing at the right moment, you burst out laughing.
Yeah, I have a few friends like that. They're hilarious.
Yeah, he doesn't even do it on purpose. He's just naturally funny. He always has been. Um, Ace, not so much. I can't really compare Ace to anybody. I'm not really sure where he came from. It was, like I said, just the idea of the most complex or the worst bad boy that I ever wrote was what I wanted out of Ace. I just wanted him to be the most memorable or the worst one, the
Yeah.
most difficult one or something. And in actuality, Ace isn't even that bad.
Ace really isn't.
No, he's like he's kind of a badass, yeah, sure, but he's not an asshole though. And I
No,
originally meant him to be.
yeah.
But it was almost like Arya kind of softens him up, so you don't see that asshole-ish part of Ace unless you read the Mirror book.
Yeah, I've read
Then
The Mirror.
you
That's when
kind of
I
see
really saw,
the
like, is he really an asshole, or is it
what
just
yeah, like he's actually was supposed to be kind of a dick, but you don't see that in Ace because you see him when he meets Arya and he's not like that
yeah.
towards her. Versus when you read the Mirror Bad things and you saw him with that one girl and he pretty much like fucking blew her off and like
Oh,
was
yeah.
like
When I
damn,
first was
go
like,
fuck
wow, you're
yourself.
really an asshole, but a total softie on Arya.
Yeah, and that's kind of the way that the Mirror book it showed that better than the other ones did. Arya's kind of I don't know where I got her at either. And mostly it was Benny's character kind of, but Carlos kind of reminds me a little bit of my dad. The whole being wise and being smart and kind of knowing the right advice to give and things like that to somebody.
Yeah.
My dad's kind of like that. Obviously, he's not part of a gang or anything, but you know,
Right. Just the whole
the
advice and
the whole leadership skills and the advice and the wiseness at a young age that's very much like my dad. So, what's the next question?
how does it feel to have people read your writing?
Uh, it's more awkward during the process of writing it. Sometimes I cringe at some of the things I write and then I gotta hurry up and backspace it and then write something different. If I actually really wrote the way that my thought process took me or just wrote it and left it the way that it was, I think some of it would be very cringeworthy. So I delete a lot of things. I do. I go back, I'm like, oh no, that's not it. You gotta come up with something better than that. And I think Benny shows a lot of that awkwardness in me
Yeah.
because I'm very awkward. And my sense of humor can be a little dark and awkward.
I have very dark sense of humor.
Yes, I do too. So it's, it's it's weird. It is. It's very strange.
Yeah, I don't know how I'd feel if I were to write and have other people read it. I'd be like kind of
I'm I've just at first I thought at one point in time I was like, wow, Ace is really popular. And it's great because I have a lot of followers and I do. And then it took me some time to actually realize that out of 2,700 followers, that's really not that much. Not on Wattpad. There are people on there with 30,000, 50,000, 75,000. So I've grown some popularity, but it's not like I'm Wattpad famous or anything.
right.
I'm not. And I was pretty blown away that a lot of people liked Ace because I thought that for sure that was going to be the book that was kind of pushed to the side. I thought that was going to be the one that people didn't really like. Um, I had a hard time writing at first and I felt very weird about it. And I didn't tell anyone at first for actually the longest time. It wasn't until Ace got really popular. It probably had like 100,000 views or so by the time I came forward and told my mom, like, hi, I write books, just so you know. And she's like, what? And I was like, yeah, I started writing books on Wattpad. One of them's getting kind of popular, and it's kind of weird because my phone keeps blowing up. It dings a lot. And she was like, oh, well, I'm going to go, read them one day. And
Oh God.
then she read The Boy Who Won't Speak first. And
Mhm.
and she messaged me like halfway through the book. She's like, oh, this is so good. And I was like, what? I was like, you're reading it? Don't read that, Mom, because of the smut scenes in it. Like, I was like, oh my God, don't read that, please.
No, I've been like,
It
no,
was so
no.
awkward. It was okay for strangers to read it at first, but then when my family found out and they started reading it, they knew what was in it or it was about, and they were like, they're like, oh yeah, it's so good. And I'm like, oh my God, please stop reading. Don't read that.
Like if you know me, if you know me in real life, you don't know me here.
Yeah, I was like, okay, just please keep in mind the fact that this it's just a story. It's just for entertainment. My grandma reads the Bad Things series, and
Oh God.
I was like, what? And she bought them all, and I was like, oh
Oh.
my God, Grandma, don't read those. And then somebody told me to have my other grandma read them, and I was like, oh my God, no, I'm not going to be responsible for giving my grandmother a freaking heart attack. Like, come on. That's
No, and
horrible.
at like gatherings, and they'd start talking about like, no, 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 you don't know that.
Yeah, and that, what, I didn't want to tell my dad either. I told Mom at first, I was like, don't tell Dad about it. Because I spent a lot of my life trying to figure out who I was or what I wanted to be. And I would start things and not finish them. And I really was like that. I thought, oh, I'm going to do this. And then I was like, oh, maybe not. And I'm like, oh, I'm going to do this. And I was like, maybe not. So I think part of me was always going to turn out to write stories because it's the one most consistent thing I think I ever did. But my my mom got a hold of my stepmom, and she's like, oh, Brooke writes books, but don't tell her dad. And they didn't for a little while, but then finally they opened their mouth to my dad, and they're like, oh yeah, so like Brooke writes books and they're getting pretty popular on Wattpad. And I was like, yeah, okay. They
Like,
told him.
thanks for saying you're not gonna tell him, but eventually do. Thanks.
And they did without me knowing. They're like, don't get mad at me, but I told your dad. And I was like, what? And my
Why
dad
are you
called
gonna
me.
start a sentence? Don't get mad at me when you know I'm gonna get mad.
Yeah, my dad called me. He's like, you write books? Why didn't you want to tell me? And I was like, because it's weird. And he's
The
like,
point was for you not to find out.
Carrie told me what's in them. And I was like, oh my God, which
Let
Carrie's,
me just jump out a window.
yeah. And then he's like, well, don't worry about it. And he's like, I probably won't read them or nothing, but if they hit the big screen, I'm going to watch them. And I was like,
Duh.
oh, okay, go ahead. Wait for the movie. I don't care, because my dad's not really a book reader, but he loves movies, though. So I
Yeah,
would like to write a movie one day. I haven't yet wrote a
that'd
script.
be cool to see Ace in a movie.
I've wrote a short script for school before and got a pretty decent grade on it. So we'll have to see how it goes because screenwriting's nothing like writing a book, and it's very complex compared.
Yeah, because you have to do like the scenes, everything.
Yeah. And then so when my dad found out, he's like, well, it's great. And I was like, well, I didn't tell you because I didn't want it to be one of those things where, oh, Brooke quit doing it again, because I had started and not finished a lot of things, or
Yeah.
said I was going to do something and turn around, not do it. And I hated doing that because I always felt like I was disappointing somebody. So, and Dad's like, oh no. He's like, I think you're really actually finally found the thing that suits you, because you used to do this before and you spent your life reading books and watching movies, and I did write some stories when I was younger that aren't around, of course, now. But
Yeah.
so what's the next question?
If there was anything that you could change about your writing journey, what would it be?
That's a really good question. I think that it would be, I would have paced myself on my stories. I would not have written them as fast as I did. I would not have published them on Amazon until they were totally edited and actually worth reading. And so I made a lot of mistakes from the beginning. And I wish I would have been more careful. When I first wrote Ace, it, as much as I got a lot of likes for that book, I also got a lot of hate for that book. It was
Yeah.
kind of pretty evenly divided. So, some people could read past all the mistakes, some people couldn't. Some people are like, oh, the Spanish isn't right in this book. And it's still not. And that's why I don't put Spanish in the book anymore, because Google Translate does not translate things right. And I know that.
I can do
So
that. Spanish, Mexican Spanish.
I took all the Spanish out apart from the nickname that Ace gave Aria, because it was such a big part of the book and I found out that Babita, or however you say it
Yeah.
is baby girl in Spanish, but usually men call their daughters that and not their girlfriends.
Huh.
I actually know somebody who can speak Spanish who told me that later on. It was another writer on Wattpad, actually. Her Wattpad name's Wonder Woman 1003 or something like that. She wrote One Step Ahead, or I can't remember the name of the book.
Mhm.
You'll have to look her up or something if you're
Yeah.
curious. I think some of her books are in my reading list and stuff. I gave her a shout out a long time ago. And her her mafia romance book, it actually became really, really popular.
I
And
think I've seen it.
her writing style is a lot different from mine. We actually used to share a Wattpad website together that was
Yeah.
just called Mature Romance. And I still have the page, but I had her take her stuff out because she wasn't updating, and I wasn't updating much either because I had to go back to work at that time, and things just got messy. And I was like, instead of making this a writing site, I'm just gonna make it, a reading site and put people's books in there and stuff so people can find them easier. So
Yeah.
yeah, the biggest mistake I made was definitely not, not knowing what I was doing with writing. I made a lot of grammar mistakes and spelling errors and things like that, or sometimes parts of the story were probably unclear because I would say he said, she said instead of saying who said it. So that was kind of a mistake on my end.
Yeah.
Got any other questions?
Is there something that you do? Is there something you do every day, right? Like it's kind of like a habit.
You might have to repeat that because my computer broke out.
Mhm. Oh, okay. Is there something you do every time that you write? Oh,
Say it one more time. If it doesn't come through this clearly, you might have to send it in the text box.
is there something that you do every time that you write?
Is what every time I write?
Like something that you do, like it's like a habit or tradition.
Oh, something that I do every time I write.
Yeah.
Um, I listen to music a lot when I write, depending on the day. Um, I usually always try to finish a chapter in one setting because I don't like walking away from it, though I have been lately because the chapters are a lot longer than they used to be.
Yeah.
Um, Other than that, not really. There's not, I procrastinate a lot.
Yeah, I do too.
I procrastinate so bad. It's horrible, actually, how much I procrastinate. I would get so much more done if I didn't procrastinate.
Mm-hmm.
All right, what's your next
It's
question?
cool. Um, what's something readers do that makes you want to keep writing?
What?
What's something that your readers do that makes you want to keep writing?
What the readers say that one more time.
What's something that readers do that you want to keep writing?
What the readers do to want me to keep writing?
Yeah.
I used to have one reader, or maybe one or two readers in particular, that left a lot of comments, and I laughed my butt off at them. Um, they actually both stopped reading a long time ago, though. Probably a year or so ago, year or two ago, they quit reading. Just probably aren't on Wattpad very much, pretty busy with their lives and stuff. So
Yeah.
it's not, you game readers and you lose them, and it's, it's gonna be that way on Wattpads. People have lives, they get busy, and a lot of people that read on Wattpad for years eventually might die down and not read no more. So I actually have a cousin who used to read on Wattpad religiously, and she barely gets on there anymore. So I think mostly what keeps me going is usually the comments. And I mean the votes too, but the comments, because most of the time I'm laughing my butt off at them.
Right. There are times where I see the comments. I'm like, I have to like stop reading and
I know.
compose myself before I can.
One of my favorite readers would always make comments like, "Oh my God, my ovaries," or "Oh my God, I screamed and fell off my bed," or typed a bunch of crazy letters, or, you know.
The falling off the bed part, I do a lot when I read.
Yeah, so I think somebody even said once that they threw their phone across the room and it hit the wall or something like that. And I
I've
laughed
done
at
that
that.
many times.
Which I shouldn't laugh at that. That shouldn't even be funny, but it was funny for me because I remember a point in time that when I read a book, Burned by Ellen Hopkins.
Oh, I've read Bird.
I was so mad. I was so angry. And if anybody's never read that book and wants to, plug your ears. But I was so mad by the end of that book when Ethan died that I chucked
Oh
that
my
book across the room
god.
and I started crying. So
I couldn't read the rest of that day. I was like, nope, I'm not touching my phone. I'm not reading. I don't care if anyone texts me. Nope.
Yeah, I think it's, it's one of those things that when you're like, I remember thinking when I calmed down from the book, after it all sank in, I was like, wow, what kind of writer can make their reader laugh and cuss and smile and feel sad and get angry all at the same time in one book? I was like, that is awesome. That's a good
Yeah.
writer. And honestly, even though I love Stephen King, by the way, he's great. Best horror writer in all of horror, in my opinion.
Yes, I can agree with that one.
I love Stephen King. He's great. But Ellen Hopkins to this day is still my favorite author. She takes
Yes.
the cake. I have not read a book by her that I don't like.
Mm-hmm.
She puts you on an emotional roller coaster, and it's like, all right, take me for a ride. Let's see what happens. I
Take
love
me
that
for
about
the
her book.
emotional coaster that I'm probably gonna regret later.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much. I would like to just own all of her books one day, but I haven't got there yet.
Yeah.
All right, what's the next question?
Um, everyday life and trying to find time to write.
What's that?
How hard is it juggling with everyday life and trying to find time to write?
Oh, it's usually hard. The last chapter I posted included bad things. Everybody else went to bed, and I stayed up to write that chapter. I was like, I'm going to finish it. I'm going to finish it, and I'm getting it on Wattpad, and then I'm going to go to bed. But most of the time, I find myself usually having to write after everybody goes to bed. So
Right.
that's kind of what makes it hard, because I'm on the same sleeping schedule as everyone else. Like I get up at 7 in the morning usually, or 6:30, but I don't go to bed until almost midnight, sometimes 2 o'clock or later. And so I'm a pretty diehard when it comes to writing. I can usually write around noise, but not all the time. It just depends on how into the story I am. Sometimes
Right.
my kids can be like running around the house screaming their heads off, and I can write right through it, no
Yeah.
problem. And then other days I'm like, I can't think. Guys, you gotta be quiet. I need to finish this chapter.
Right. I've grown up with noise, so I'm pretty used to it. But usually when you post a chapter, I'm like right there, like reading it right
Yeah.
after notification.
Yeah, I think one of the hardest things is having so many kids and trying to keep up with college and writing. That's all very three chaotic things. At one point in time, I used to be able to write 12 chapters a day, be like 12,000 words or more.
Yeah.
And now that the chapters are longer, obviously I can't punch out 12 chapters in a day. So it's become a lot more difficult to be able to write now because of everything that's going on, especially college. College is mainly what's taking up my time. So once the year and a half goes by, because I only have a year and a half left, once that goes by, you'll probably find me being able to write a lot more than what I was.
Mm-hmm.
So
What are you going to college for?
I'm going to college for creative writing, bachelor's
Ooh.
degree. So I write a lot of stories for college too. Actually, one of them's supposed to publish on Scarlet Leaf Review pretty soon, because I submitted the story to a literary magazine online, and they're supposed to be putting the story up pretty soon.
Mhm. Yeah, because I know I'm going to start taking a creative writing class in high school.
Yeah. Yeah, creative writing, it's a fun program. I really like it. It's through Full Sail University, and their program's pretty awesome, and it's usually pretty lenient. Most classes are pretty much at your own pace. Um,
Mhm.
but you know, they're I still have to usually spend anywhere between 3 and 5 days a week just on one class, or you know, sometimes it's 7 days a week, even if the class is a little more challenging. So
Right.
we'll have to see how this next class goes. I just started it today. I've kind of looked at it, and it's
Mhm.
like about mythology or something. So
Ooh.
that's going to cause me to have to read a lot. So I think this class
Yeah.
is going to be really time consuming, and I think it's going to take away a lot of my writing time. So
Yeah, the mythology in general is just a lot.
yeah, yeah, and Queen of Bad Things, it takes up a lot of my brain power to rewrite that book, because I have to keep it similar, but I have to change it at the same time. But I have to know what is mentioned in Finding Ace and what's mentioned in Angel, so I don't, you know, because, yeah, don't watch this if you haven't read Queen of Bad Things. So in Queen of Bad Things, Arya is supposed to get blown up, and she goes into a coma for a really short time, and then she wakes up with memory loss of only like the last year or whatever, so she don't
Yeah.
really remember Ace. She remembers meeting him, and like that's it, that's all she remembers. I can't remember if I mentioned it. I know I mentioned in Finding Ace that she lost her memory, but I didn't go into detail.
I think can remember that.
I was gonna put her in a coma and take away the
Oh.
memory loss part, but I can't do that because I brought up the fact that she had memory loss.
Mhm.
The reason I didn't the reason I thought about changing it was because Ace loses his memory in the third book, and I'm like, God, that's kind of
Yeah.
to the same. But I actually can't delete that part because it got brought up. But what I'm probably gonna do is I'm probably gonna keep her in a coma a little while longer than what I did in the original book.
I can't remember how long you had her in a coma for.
I think it was only a week or two, but it was maybe 3 or 4 chapters that she was in a coma.
Yeah.
It wasn't very long. This time it might be close to the same, like 3, 4 chapters, but they're a lot longer. So realistically, it'd almost be like 9 or 10 chapters if
Mhm.
it was written the same length as the original book was.
Yeah.
All right.
Because I think I can remember what all happened to Ace in Finding Ace. I think that was the book where
In
um
the original or the rewrite?
the original.
Yeah, the rewrite's a lot different than the original was. It's not like, it just has its different parts. But I honestly liked the rewrite better than the original, I
Yeah,
thought.
because I was rereading the first book of Ace, and I saw how you were rewriting. I was like, I kind of like this better than the original.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a lot different for sure. I thought what was funny about that was that when I decided I had to rewrite them, I was like, okay, Finding Ace has to be the third book. How am I going to rewire this? And I was like, okay, so how about the Chinese do it instead of the Irish? I like that idea.
Yeah.
So I made it to where the Chinese did it. And I decided that instead of technically Arya's looking for Ace, but Ace is actually looking for Arya at the same time. And I thought that was kind of funny. And, you know, the people who read the originals, they like instantly knew it was Ace.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, my grandma was taken by surprise that it was Ace because she didn't read the original books. You
Oh,
all like figured it out right away. You're like, oh, the hooded figure guy's Ace. And I don't think that wasn't supposed to be an extremely big shock or nothing. I knew it wasn't going to be, but I knew it was different and thought you guys would like it. So you actually get to see Ace and Arya fighting, and I thought, I don't know, I thought that was kind of funny, and I wanted them to fight, you know.
yeah.
So I thought it'd be like, well, how weird would it be if he was brainwashed into the idea that he's supposed to kill his wife?
That'd be interesting.
And I thought it turned out pretty good. Part of me
It,
kind of wishes that you wouldn't have found out that it was Ace until the end. But at the same time, I didn't want to wait until the end for you to see that it was Ace, because I wanted Ace to be able to fall back in love with her. I wanted Ace to have to face the Chinese and, you know, for him to get his memory back that way and stuff. So it pretty much worked out the way that I wanted it to.
yeah.
What's your next
It's
question?
12 o'clock.
Have you ever had an idea planned, but as you started writing it, it didn't go how you wanted it to?
Yep. The Bad Things series. That's why I'm rewriting them. They did not turn out the way that I wanted them to, because I mean, Ace and Queen of Bad Things turned out exactly the way I wanted them to. I don't really have regrets with that book, apart from the fact that they were a little fast paced and some things were a little awkward in it. Like I got a lot of criticism about Arya having a glass of wine during her pregnancy. Which is actually totally fine, by the way. But
Yeah,
a lot of people don't take it that way. They're like, oh my God, girl, you shouldn't be drinking, you're pregnant. Actually, she can drink as long
she
as
can.
it's
It just
only
has to be a
one.
small amount,
Yeah, it's so
along with
actually,
caffeine, like a
they
small.
actually say that one glass of wine is actually good for your pregnancy because of the grapes in it, I think.
Yeah.
Something. You can even drink so much as one glass of wine a day. I knew a lady who was pregnant with twins. She drank like almost a glass of wine every day that she was pregnant. So as long as it's a very small amount, it is okay. I actually drank with my kids. Once was before I knew I was pregnant. And one time I had like a half a glass of wine maybe. But I started feeling funny and I was like, ew, no, I can't do
Baby didn't
this.
like that idea.
Yeah, no, they didn't like that. So they're like, no, sorry, Mom, you can't drink. But yeah, I got a lot of criticism for that, and then people were like, oh my God, why does the dead keep coming back to life in this book? So now I have to, but I do have to bring Anderson back, obviously, because he's
Yeah.
an angel. And I have to bring Jenny back because I think she's brought up in finding Ace and Angel. And I brought Jim back on purpose. I left his death open to the idea that he might not be dead, in
Yeah.
the event that I wanted to bring him back. And when I decided on the sequel, I was like, well, then Jim's coming back at the end. So that was a pretty fast decision, actually. They all kind of came to me pretty quickly, and then actually I wrote Angel, and then I wrote Angel Bad Things, and then I made Ace disappear in a plane crash, and I was gonna quit. I was gonna leave it there. I was done with that series. I was like, all right, that's it. I'm done, guys. That's the end of the road. That's the Bad Things series. Hope you enjoyed it. Like 5 books. And that's what it was supposed to be. It was supposed to just be Ace bad things and Queen of bad things, and then, Angel and Angel bad things. That's what the original series was supposed to be. That
Oh my
was supposed to
god.
be the end of the line, the end of the road. And everybody was mad at me. They're like, no, you're not. You're going to go find Ace. What are you doing? They're
I would
so
have joined
mad
like
at me.
Ace in the
I
airplane.
didn't think everybody was going to actually, like, I expected people to be bothered by it, but like people demanded that I go find Ace. I was like, okay, guys, put the pitchforks down. I'm going to go find Ace. So, and I think my mom messaged me at one point when I was writing the original Finding Ace, and she's like, what are you doing? I was like, I'm going to go find Ace. And she's like, huh?
Right?
And so that book was not supposed to exist at all. And for the fact that I had to write it, I think is why it kind of turned out so short, and it turned out in a way that I didn't want it to turn out. But then, I left it open for another book, which was when I introduced the twins, Andrea and Andrew.
Yeah.
And then after that, I left it open, but I didn't touch it for a long time. And then Bad Intentions came to mind because I was in the middle of writing a different Mafia book and I hated it. I was like, God, this book sucks. Who wants to read this?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I can't write Mafia books, like, worth a crap. And I was like, well, I wrote the Bad Things series, and, that's a pretty good Mafia book, apparently, because it's pretty popular. So maybe I
Yeah.
should just go back to the Bad Things series, because that Mafia book was actually making me miss the Bad Things characters. So after doing just a little bit of digging on that book, I was like, oh, I know. I'll call it Bad Intentions. So it's not like nobody's going to know that this book is based on the Bad Things series.
Mm-hmm.
So I started Bad Intentions, and nobody was reading it at first, like within the first 3 chapters. And finally, I started messaging some of the ones that I knew for sure read the Bad Things series.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, you guys go check this book out. I think you're going to like it. And I didn't tell them anything else. You're going to like this book. Just trust me. Go read it. I promise. And by the end of the 3rd chapter, when they realized that the Bad Things series was tied to Bad Intentions, and that Andrew was actually Andrew Garcia, Ace and Arya's kid, they all freaked out. They're like, oh my God, yes, they get another Bad Things book. And then somewhere in the middle of writing that book, I wrote We Could Never Be, or I was starting that, and it wasn't very popular.
Mm-hmm.
So I paused on writing Bad Intentions near the end of it, and I finished We Could Never Be, and I made it to where Hayden was adopted, and he was actually related to the Garcia family through Austin.
Ooh.
He was Austin's grandson. And when the ones who did read Bad Intentions, and they were reading that at the same time, they were shocked. They're like, wait, what? So they
Like,
kind of
did we
freaked
just
out
read
during
this
that.
right?
And then after I started finishing Bad Intentions, I brought Hayden into the story, and Hayden wound up becoming a part of what Andrew and them are. So,
Yeah.
I mean, the 5th book is gonna be kind of similar to Bad Intentions and stuff, but it's also not gonna be, people aren't gonna understand it at first, I don't think. So it's kind of going in the same direction, but it's also not going in the same direction at the same time. It's weird.
Yeah.
All right, what's your next question?
It's kind of all I had because while we were talking, you also answered the other ones that I had written down.
Did you?
Yeah.
Well, that's fine. I'm glad that we could do this meeting and stuff.
Yeah,
And
I am too. It was fun.
I I hate giving so much away though about the next book. I kind of did that on accident. I didn't mean to. I was
I'll probably
supposed to tell you guys. I was not supposed to announce the idea that the book was heading in the same direction. I was not supposed to give that one up. So
yeah.
hopefully whoever watches this doesn't actually watch the entire hour.
I'll probably forget about everything.
Yeah. Yeah, I think uh, I'm thinking that a lot of people will probably watch some of this, but I don't think that a lot of them will watch it to the end. So I'm kind of counting on the idea that they don't hear that part of it.
I hope so.
Because
Like, forget about it.
I have no idea how to edit these videos and stuff to make them shorter or anything like that. So I I'm not gonna end the meeting, but I am gonna stop the recording.
Okay.
So we can say goodbye to the Wattpad readers. I really appreciate you doing the interview with me and stuff
You're
too.
very welcome.